I rise to second the motion to laid before us by the honorable mover and distinguished member from Nevis 9, and to support this bill before the Honorable House. But in the process, as I do at all times, I must give thanks to Almighty God for continuing to bless me with the opportunity to serve the people of St. Christopher, one, who sent me here on their behalf to represent them, and by extension, to serve all the people of St. Christopher and Nevis. I see the Honorable Attorney General putting up his four fingers. Whatever that means, Mr. Speaker. He may be referring to the former Prime Minister in Bahamas. He lost by 4. Am I correct?
Yeah, you're right.
Mr. Speaker, as intimated by the member from Nevis 9 and mover of this bill now before us, some 14 years ago, and it bears repeating, some 14 years ago, on the 21st of October, 2003, to be exact, an agreement was made between the governments of Antigua and Barbuda, the Commonwealth of Dominica, Grenada, St. Christopher and the Nevis, St. Lucia, and St. Vincent and the Grenadines. This course of action, Mr. Speaker, was aimed at promoting aviation through the establishment of an autonomous regional regulatory structure in order to control civil aviation and to stimulate the quality of entrepreneurial economic activity that should be within the aviation industry in the Eastern Caribbean, and of course to harmonize to the extent practicable with neighboring Caribbean states the implementation of the standards and recommended practices known in the aviation industry by the acronym SARPS or SARPS. Mr. Speaker, without attempting to insult your knowledge, because I vaguely believe you are served for one moment or period in time as a minister of civil aviation? Not too sure.
Not aviation.
Okay, but you serve somewhere near there. SAPs, Mr. Speaker, are technical specifications adopted by the Council of ICAO in accordance with Article 37 of the Convention on International Civil Aviation, so as to achieve the highest practicable degree of uniformity in the regulations, standards, procedures, and organization in relation to aircraft, personnel, airways, and auxiliary services in all matters in which such uniformity will facilitate and improve air navigation. As one can glean from the content of Article 4 of the bill before us, Mr. Speaker, the purposes of the authority, in addition to those mentioned by the mover of the bill, include, amongst other things, the regulation of matters pertaining to civil aviation, safety, and security in participating states. It also attempts to develop and to seek approval for harmonized civil aviation regulations, policies, and practices to be adopted by participating states, and to apply standards and recommended practices adopted by the ICAO uniformly within the participating states. Mr. Speaker, ICAO, or the International Civil Aviation Organization, is a specialized agency of the United Nations, which was created way back in 1944 to promote the safe and orderly development of international civil aviation throughout the world. ICAO sets the standards and regulations necessary for aviation safety, security, efficiency, and environmental protection on a global basis. It serves as the primary forum for cooperation in all fields of civil aviation among its 191 member states, of which St. Kitts and Nevis is one. Improving the safety of the global air transport system is therefore ICAO's guiding and most fundamental strategic objective. The organization works constantly to address and enhance global aviation, or that should be global aviation safety outcomes through coordinated activities such as policy and standardization initiatives, monitoring of key safety trends and indicators, safety analysis, implementing programs to address safety issues. Whereas, Mr. Speaker, the Eastern Caribbean Civil Aviation Authority, ECA, as intimated, evolved from the Directorate of Civil Aviation, the DCA. Empirical data would suggest, or a matter of fact, the DCA was considered back then one of the oldest, if not the oldest, institutions in the Eastern Caribbean region. From its inception, Mr. Speaker, the Directorate was seen as a vehicle for facilitating a collective and uniform approach to civil aviation matters affecting the then Windward and Leeward Islands, which now comprise the Organization of Eastern Caribbean States, or the OECS group. The mover of the bill spoke to the appointment of the first appointment of the director in 1957. by the government of the United Kingdom. But in 1961, Mr. Speaker, the director's role as publicized, important to note, was to advise the governments of the Windward and Leeward Islands on all matters relating to civil aviation, including airfields and airport developments, the implementation of ICAO conventions, and the adequacy of air services. But following the dissolution of the West Indies Federation in 1962 and reversion of the islands to the former colonial status, this meant that the Directorate had to once again exercise the functions on behalf of the United Kingdom government. The member from Nevis 9 also spoke to the administration of the Directorate, which was assigned to Antigua and Barbuda. He also spoke to the Directorate becoming an institution of the OECS in 1982 through the Treaty of Bastille, which established the OECS. In fact, Mr. Speaker, it was at the 35th meeting of the OECS heads of governments in 2002, and the member from St. Christopher 6 was there when the heads decided that one, a fully autonomous body should be established with the responsibility to regulate civil aviation activities within OECS member states. And two, the body should be self-financed. But, Mr. Speaker, the irony of this exercise today in this National Assembly is spelled out in Article 29 of the bill before us, which relates to its accession. Mr. Speaker, in accordance with the mandate issued at the 35th meeting of the OECS heads of governments in 2002, the OECS ministers with responsibility for civil aviation signed the agreement establishing ECA at St. George's, Grenada, way back in 2003. Since October, beg your pardon, Mr. Speaker, since October 2003, yet the member opposite from St. Christopher 6 provided a song and dance about the seriousness and integrity of this Team Unity administration. But, Mr. Speaker, I find myself in a state of ambivalence whenever I listen to the member and other members opposite in this House of Assembly. I find myself in this state because I know the member from St. Christopher 6. The Attorney General knows him. Apparently they were in school together. So we believe that he ought to know better. But you see, Mr. Speaker, a recent set of studies, which was done by a professor, I believe it was from the University of Pennsylvania. I stand to be corrected, Mr. Speaker. But That set of studies indicates that people genuinely do tend to forget the details of their own transgressions. They tend to forget the details of their transgressions. Researchers have also shown, Mr. Speaker, that engaging in bad behavior affects people's memory. And Mr. Speaker, it was George Santayana who said, and I quote, "Those who cannot remember the past are condemned to repeat it." That's what puts me in this state of ambivalence. Should I forgive him?
Not necessary.
Not necessarily.
It's not his fault.
It's because, as the member from number 5 said in this honorable house, it's because of unethical amnesia. The member from St. Christopher 6 is more likely to act dishonestly repeatedly over time. But enough of that, Mr. Speaker, because the honorable member from St. Christopher 5 gave us a sound thesis on unethical amnesia. I'm sure you recall that, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, the honorable member from St. Christopher 6 questioned the urgency that this team unity government gives to the people's business. But with nothing to contribute to the important bills that are being debated, or some were already debated today, the members opposite question the seriousness and the commitment of this administration. How dare they? How dare they, Mr. Speaker? How disingenuous can one get? The very bill before this honorable house today and now exposes the dishonesty and deceitfulness of the members opposite. Someone mentioned we come here to do their unfinished business. But truth be told, Mr. Speaker, we come here time and time again to clean up their mess. Mr. Speaker, our seriousness has been questioned. But what commitment did the member from number 6, what commitment did he have for the safety and security of people who travel by air locally, regionally, and internationally to and from St. Kitts and Nevis? Well, math is my strongest weak point. And someone said 13 years or 12 years. I don't understand that. But I, applying my limited skills with mathematics, it is now 14 years, Mr. Speaker. 14 years ago, you heard that the Honorable Halvor Hendrickson affixed his signature to the agreement. Is that the candidate or former candidate from number 8, member from number 8? Was that the candidate who promised a cemetery? A couple of cemeteries, or the same one? He signed the agreement to establish the Eastern Caribbean Civil Aviation Authority and other matters incidental thereto, for and on behalf of the government of St. Christopher and Nevis. By October 2004, all member states, except St. Kitts and Nevis, had passed the Eastern Caribbean Civil Aviation Authority Agreement Act, which signaled the birth of ECHO. So today, Mr. Speaker, we are not going to be distracted. As I mentioned just last night on my weekly show, I don't know if you're aware that Straight Talk comes to the nation and the world twice per week, Mondays and Thursdays, from 8 to 10 p.m. on Goodwill Radio, 104.5 FM. I invite the entire nation and the diaspora to listen coming Thursday. But we are here to do or to address the unfinished business of the rejected Labour Party. We are here to address the unfinished business of a leader and member from number 6, who many pundits and Caribbean analysts of politics have deemed him a failure. So we are here to clean up his mess. In conclusion, Mr. Speaker, today, through the enactment of the Civil Aviation ECCAA Agreement Bill 2017, this National Assembly will pass, I do hope, will pass into our laws and give effect to the agreement for the establishment of the Eastern Caribbean Civil Aviation Authority, which was signed, as mentioned before, I need to repeat it, which was signed by all OASIS states way back in October 2003. For 14 years, they did nothing. Absolutely nothing. How do you compare 14 years to 8 months? How could you? The member from number 7 and our revered leader gave the rationale why we give a first reading of a bill and we come 8 months after, because we need the public to know and make their input so they can own the policies through the legislation we bring here on their behalf. So, Mr. Speaker, I wish this bill safe passage to this honorable House. May it please you, Mr. Speaker. I thank you.
Stay up to date with news, programs, and activities of the government with SKNIS. Like us on Facebook. Listen to us on SoundCloud. Follow us on Twitter. And watch our videos on YouTube. Connect with us today. SKNIS, St. Kitts and Nevis Information Service.